Thank you very much. First of all, I pay my wholehearted congratulations to Dr. Ismail Seth. Legends are always born with the intention to dedicate themselves not only with their act, but with their duties as well. So I extend my warmest welcome to all my seniors, juniors, and all new generation and next generation of homeopathy. So it has been said that what will happen again. What has been done, we still must do. And nothing under the sky is entirely new. This is very important. I read this stanza in a book of gynecology written by Tabor. And I inspired with that what has been done, we still must do, and nothing under the sky is entirely new. Yes, Hahnemann has done everything. Hahnemann has done everything by himself. And he gave us a word, ode sapere, dare to be wise. So Hahnemann has continued because he wasn't happy with the conventional practice which was running at that time. So he gave a gift of a noble science that which we call homeopathy, and we are also following the footsteps of Dr. Hahnemann. But here, I always insist to my new generation of homeopath that dare to be wise. Try to invent, try to innovate, and try to implement homeopathy in such a way that it can be the first line of treatment in the world. So I'll start my presentation with female fertility issue. Yes, Dr. Manoj. And today we are going to discuss two major conditions, and which is very common. Every day we come across with some young patients, and that is PCOS, polycystic ovarian disease. And another condition is endometriosis. So these two conditions having some limitations with the conventional practice. Gynecologist, general practitioner, and andrologist, they are treating polycystic ovarian condition and endometriosis, but with their medicine, there are loads and loads of side effects, and sometimes patient gets entrapped with some complication. So here, I will start sharing my screen. Okay, is it visible properly?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I'm audible properly? My voice is okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, so today we are going to discuss about the female fertility and homeopathy. And the two conditions that what I earlier told, that PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, polycystic ovarian disease, and another is endometriosis. So these are the two things that what we are going to discuss today. Okay, so let us understand the female reproductive organs. Female reproductive organs having two fallopian tubes, two ovaries, one uterus, one cervix, and vagina. So these are the things which we should understand before going for the disease condition. So two fallopian tubes, bilateral, two ovaries, bilateral, uterus is the center part, cervix is also a center part, and vagina is the center part. So here, let us know about ovaries. What are the ovaries and what is the function of ovaries? The ovary is the primary reproductive organ in females, and it has two main functions, which are maturation and release of female ovum. We call it as an egg in a periodic manner. Every 14th day, slowly, the matured egg is rupturing on 13th, 14th, or 15th day. It varies with the patient to patient. And that's why Hahnemann has given the condition that we studied as a concept of individualization. Everybody is different. So in many patients, okay. In many patients, the egg is releasing on 14th day, majority of the time, but plus or minus 2 or 3 days. So this all about the maturation and release of the ovum. And another function of the ovary is the secretion of female sex hormone, mainly estrogen and progesterone. These are the two main hormones which has been secreted by the ovary during the reproductive age and after reproductive age. When the lady is entering into menopause, then also this hormone plays its role, but the limitation comes over there. So now, PCOS, polycystic ovarian disease, or Stein-Leventhal syndrome. An American gynecologist, Irving F. Stein and Michael L. Leventhal, they described this condition in 1935. And to honor them about finding this condition, the name has been given as a Stein-Leventhal syndrome. Other synonyms for this PCOS is the PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, polycystic ovarian disease, functional ovarian hyperandrogenism, ovarian hyperechosis, and sclerocystic ovary syndrome. So these are the different names of the condition, but the condition is the same, and that is called the polycystic ovarian syndrome. The commonest symptoms of PCOD or PCOS are amenorrhea, means absence of menstruation. Complete absence of menstruation. We will discuss one case further, having a multiple pathology about the PCOD and endometriosis and how we have treated that case successfully. That we'll discuss later after end of this. So amenorrhea means the absence of menstruation, irregular and infrequent menstrual period, or complete absence of menses. So this is the prime symptoms of the PCOD. Anovulation. When we sent our patient for the USG, means ultrasonography, the sonologist will report that there is no ovulation, means egg has not been ruptured, as the egg has not been matured, so egg can't be ruptured. So it is called the anovulation. There is no ovulation, means anovulation, with increased serum level of testosterone. Testosterone is a male hormone. So when there is an ovulation, simultaneously, if we ask our patient to check the blood, patient will show the increased level of the testosterone. Okay, another symptom is inability to get pregnant without 1 year of unprotected intercourse. This is the definition of infertility. So patient is facing a problem of infertility. Patient is gradually gaining the weight and patient becomes obese. Many patients are developing diabetes because of the overproduction of insulin with abnormal lipid level. And later on, patient is land up with the high blood pressure. So these are the most common symptoms of PCOS. Along with that, patient is developing hirsutism because of the high level of testosterone. It's a male hormone. So patient is developing excessive hair growth on the face, on the chin, on the mustache, on the face, chest, and pelvic region. Thinning of the hair. Scalp hair becomes thinner. Many patients, they are developing a sort of a baldness, perpetual baldness. The skin becomes oily. Young patients, they are developing acne or dandruff. Patient is developing a condition that is called the acanthosis nigricans, means dark brown patches of thickened skin around the neck, groin, underarm, or skin folds. When there is a fold of the skin, patients are developing a dark brown patches of the thickened skin. And warts, that you know very well, skin tags, tiny excess flap of skin in the armpit or around the neck area. And this warts, it gets accelerated if patient is wearing any gold chain or any silver chain. This is also very important clinical feature of the PCOS. Now, in short, if we want to describe the clinical feature of the PCOS or PCOD, then we can say that amenorrhea, oligomenorrhea, means scanty menstruation. Patient can get few drops, again it stops, again it starts, like that is oligomenorrhea. Infertility. And when patient comes for the treatment of infertility, we are getting the PCOS is the main principal cause. Okay, the first trimester abortion is very common with the PCOS patient. Obesity, as we discussed, is very common because of the high level of testosterone and low level of estrogen. So when there is a low level of estrogen, patient is retaining water. That is called the water retention. Acne on the face, acanthosis nigricans, hirsutism means unwanted hair on the face, on the chin, and male pattern alopecia. So these are the clinical features. So when we look at the patient, as Hahnemann has explained us, that physician should be a good observer. If you observe the patient in this way, and if you find that these are the condition, patient is obese, patient is acne, patient is some brownish or blackish depigmentation, especially on the folds, if patient is wearing a short sleeve top or anything, then we can see that. So these are the condition. And when patient grows a bit older, then patient is developing a sort of male pattern alopecia as well. So this all about the clinical features. Now, when patient comes to you, when you have taken the history, patient has given the history to you that menses are not regularly coming, irregularly, regular or regularly irregular, the flow is very scanty, patient having a pelvic pain, abdominal pain, heaviness and tenderness in the breast, all these things. Then, as a homeopath, as a consultant, your duty is to advise the patient a right investigations. Once you advise the right investigations, then and then it will boost up your diagnosis with the documentation. And right now, documentation is very, very important. The days has gone that if we tell the patient that take this medicine and you'll be okay, you have to give everything in proof, because Hahnemann has narrated obstacles to the cure in Organon of Medicine. And we have to find the exact cause of the obstacles. Why patient is not getting result, that can be found out with the help of investigations. So here you can advise anti-Mullerian hormone assay, AMH. Testosterone level is always elevated. When blood report comes at that time, you can see the testosterone level is always elevated. Estrogen fraction and androstenedione. These are the very expensive tests and rarely we are recommending, but LH and FSH level, that is called the female fertility profile. LH-FSH ratio is always greater than 2, and which is always suggestive of PCOS. Reduced sex hormone binding globulin, that is HBG. This is also very important. Thyroid function test to rule out the thyroid crisis, hypothyroidism. Prolactin level, when patient is complaining the pain in breast, the prolactin level is very, very important. Fasting glucose level and oral glucose tolerance test, lipid profile, that is total cholesterol, LDL and HDL. This is also very, very important. And these two tests, they are very rare and hardly we have to advise them. That is 17-hydroxyprogesterone level and HCG to rule out the ectopic pregnancy. This is also very important because when patient having amenorrhea, patient having abdominal pain, patient having a scanty bleeding, but the pain is excruciating. Patient is unable to tolerate. At that time, sometime ectopic pregnancy can occur. And we can rule out whether patient having ectopic pregnancy or not. So beta HCG to rule out the ectopic pregnancy. This is very, very important. And when the beta HCG comes negative, HCG to rule out pregnancy comes negative, so you can reassure your patient that there is no any ectopic pregnancy. This is because of the only PCOD. Now coming to the anti-Mullerian hormone. Last time when I was discussing about the female fertility in part 1, at that time one of our senior colleague has raised this question about the anti-Mullerian hormones. So I have just put a slide and with thanks from the Wikipedia, and you, if you want to take a screenshot of this, then you can take the screenshot and that will help you to find a right range for the anti-Mullerian hormone. So now what is anti-Mullerian hormone and what is its role? AMH is named after Johannes Peter Müller. Johannes Peter Müller was a German anatomist. He found this paramesonephric duct that we call as a Mullerian duct. And as it regresses after birth, the anti-Mullerian hormone has been named in his honor. So what is the function of AMH? AMH is having a vital role in folliculogenesis. Testosterone having a vital role in spermatogenesis. Same way, the anti-Mullerian hormone having a vital role in folliculogenesis, means producing an egg in the ovaries. It regulates the production of sex hormone. With the onset of puberty, it rises in female and it falls in male patient. Slowly, it declines in male patient. AMH provide a guide to ovarian reserve, that how many egg ovary having in stock, that can be checked with the anti-Mullerian hormone. And higher level of HMA shows good natural fertility in female. So when there is a PCOD, endometriosis, at that time the anti-Mullerian hormone becomes the right choice to diagnose the condition correctly. So this is all about the anti-Mullerian hormone. Is it okay? Everything is okay? Anybody having any question, any doubt?
No, proceed, doctor.
Okay. Now, when we advise our patient for the ultrasound, sonography. In sonography, if you are escorting your patient to the sonologist place, you can see the string of pearl appearance, string of pearls. And that you can see in the picture which I have provided over here. Pelvic ultrasonography will reveal that presence of more than 10 cysts measuring 2 to 8 millimeter in diameter. So average follicle size is 20 millimeter by 20 millimeter. But here, this 2 to 8 millimeter means it is immature. It is not able to fertilize. It's not able to release because the size is very, very small. So when you send your patient for a sonography, sonologist will take a picture, and with the polycystic ovary, you will be able to see the picture like a string of pearl picture. And this you will never forget. Now let us come to a case discussion. As we have taken an idea about what is PCOS, how you can diagnose, what are the complaint patient is presenting with. So now we are going for a case discussion. And if you remember, in a male infertility session, I discussed about one patient to whom I treated with the potentized L-arginine. The same patient's wife, her name is MKP. She's from the Leicestershire, where we live. She's very near to us, but she came to India for the treatment purpose. A young obese lady with puffiness on the face, feet, and tummy. Abdomen was also swollen. She was very apprehensive and always blaming for her misfortune. And she was getting confused too much. So every time her husband has to remind that, okay, what you were talking? You are talking like this. And right now you are talking. So all the time she was confused. She had a warts around her neck region. Very small and scattered warts. But I labeled that warts because she was wearing 2 chains of gold. So I can correlate that because of as she's wearing the gold chain, so skin is secreting a sweating, the perspiration. That perspiration is containing a salt. And that salt is interacting with gold, aurum. That salt is interacting with argentum, silver. And that's why many patients are developing a wart. And once they stop wearing it, eventually it will go. But in polycystic ovarian patient, it will never go. She was very forgetful, sluggishness in her all activities, and husband has to remind so many things to her because she used to forget whether you have taken medicine or not. The husband was asking that, have you taken your medicine? What was her reply? I might have taken, I might not. So she was confused and she was not sure that whether she has taken or not. So strongly launching for the head, strong desire to have an offspring, strong desire to have a child, and anxiety about her health, future, and getting pregnant. Cannot relax, as always worrying about small things. Even if she goes on holiday, she was worrying about how I will wash my clothes. Well, I will dry it. When it will get dry. Small, silly things. These are very, very important things for a homeopath to notice. So anxiety about everything. Cannot relax. When we are going for a holiday, we are relaxing. But this lady was not able to relax. And she was always worrying about small things. She loves water. She was drinking plenty of water. She loves shower. She loves bath. She loves washing. So water is a part of her routine. If she wants to wash the hand, she was washing for a longer time. In shower also, for bath also, she was taking more than usual time. Say, for example, we are finishing our shower within 15 to 20 minutes. She used to spend about half an hour, or more than half an hour. So this is the difference. Also, she having a history of hay fever. In UK, hay fever is very common. When spring starts, when pollen starts coming to the air, patient starts catching hay fever with the sneezing, watery eyes, runny nose, itching in the eyes, and rashes on the face. So she had a history of hay fever, catches cold very easily with change of season. With every change of season, she used to catch hay fever. And this hay fever, I advised her for the blood test, and she found a very high level of eosinophil. So that is called the eosinophilia, because it's a reaction of our body. When body reacts to pollens or any external affection, immediately our immune system is reacting. And that's why the eosinophil comes into the picture, and we found the high number of eosinophils in the blood. So she had a history of hay fever. Now, she had a complaint of irregular menses, dysmenorrhea with abdominal cramps, as I said earlier, and she had a pain in pelvic region and hypogastria. She had a nausea-like sensation prior to periods, abnormal craving for egg and salt. And she had a missed period of 4 to 6 months. Why 4 to 6 months? Because in between she had a just spotting. And that spotting I don't consider as a period. So she had a missed period of 4 to 6 months. Heaviness on the head with profuse sweat at night. And that's why she developed a warts. Regarding her breast, she was telling that it was very hot, very much painful, heavy, tender before period, and she felt it bit distended as well. So here, prolactin level plays its role, and we should always think about the prolactin. Serum prolactin level should be checked. And this is very important complaint, dyspareunia. She had a painful intercourse, so she was avoiding intercourse, and without that, the result was not possible. So clinical investigations I have advised, and USG has shown that she had a small multiple follicles in both the ovaries. Multiple follicles, but it's very small, immature. And the endometrial thickness was very, very thin. That is only 4 millimeter. Ideally, it should be around 10 millimeter, but here it was 4 millimeter. Why it should be 10 millimeter at the time of ovulation, 10 to 12? Because when husband and wife keep a relation, when there is a fertilization, when fertilization takes place, the uterus is preparing a bed, and that bed is being prepared by endometrium, and then nidation takes place. Nidus means nest. So that nest is welcoming a new zygote, new baby, and that endometrium, if it is less than 10 millimeter, ideally it should be 10 to 12, but if it is less than 10 millimeter, say for example, in her case, it is only 4 millimeter. So her body is not prepared to welcome a new baby. This is very important. So her uterus was normal in shape, size, and position. No retroverted uterus, normal size, normal shape, but the endometrium was very thin, 4 millimeter, and there were small multiple follicles in both the ovaries. So there was no any at all mature follicle. So here I have advised her to check for the hypothyroidism, TORCH. TORCH means toxoplasmosis, rubella, cytomegalo, and herpes. Herpes 1 and herpes 2. And whole female fertility profile, that is FSH, LH, PRL, and everything. So after that, I made an evaluation of the patient on homeopathic basis. So her constitution was psoric, eucophlegmatic, obese, puffy, edematous. Diathesis was scrofulous, catching cold easily, hay fever. Mind is very apprehensive, feeling guilty about her misfortune, forgetful, but generous as well. She was very generous. Head, heaviness on the head. And her female symptoms was showing dyspareunia due to burning. Periods were suppressed with head symptoms. She had a dysmenorrhea. She had a pain in the pelvis, lower pelvis, and PCOD confirmed with the USC, ultrasound examination. Ovaries. The USA report has shown that ovaries were hard and sense of tightness in pelvis. That's what she complained. Extremities edematous, swelling on the face and feet. Breast very sensitive, hot, tender, distended, and painful before her period. Abdomen, great tenderness over pelvis and uterine region. So this is the whole makeup of the patient. After analyzing the patient in this way, what happened next? It becomes our duty to restore this patient's abnormal pathology by using homeopathy to the normal physiology. So considering the history, symptomatology, and pathology, I selected Calcarea-Carb 10M as a constitutional remedy. 1 dose twice a week, every Monday and every Thursday, 1 dose. And on that day, she does not have to take any other medication like Epismel, 200. It was prescribed 2 doses per day for 6 weeks, morning and evening, BD. So drastic improvement in her condition after 6 weeks. Mr. M, Mrs. and Mr. Mr. was also under my treatment, Mrs. also under my treatment. So I was treating couples simultaneously, but here, this lady got her proper period followed by normal ovulation check with BBT chart, basal body temperature chart. And also they have undergone a USG. You can advise your patient for the BBT chart, basal body temperature chart. If any patient comes to you and if you want to monitor the ovulation, this is the simplest and handy way to check the basal body temperature chart. Okay, so she got her proper period, normal ovulation, no mastodynia, means no pain in the breast, no pain at all, no dyspareunia. With the help of Epis, the inflammation has completely gone. There was no burning, no pain in the breast, and remarkable reduction in the swelling. And she felt that she has lost some weight. After 3 months, I was informed about her pregnancy. So it has added one more success story in my history. And I have discussed her husband case, Mr. KP, in my earlier male fertility and homeopathy presentation on 15th of April. And their baby, right now she has become adult. And she is also my patient for her asthma, and I have treated her for asthma as well. So this is how we treat our patients on conventional medicine, where they fail to help, but how homeopathy has helped them by advising them, go for investigations, check your blood, go for sonography, check your ovulation, and accordingly we can select the remedy. And how that Calcarea is working, how that Epis is working, that now I'm going to describe. Now I'm going to discuss with you. Epis. Epis is a bee sting discovered in 1835 by Reverend Browns in Thuringia, Germany. Dr. Constantine Hering, we all are very well know about the Hering's law of cure. So Dr. Constantine Hering published its proving in American Proving. The preparation went through several changes to improve its efficacy, like introduction and use of Apium virus, removed venom sac, and later Apis venenum purum. So this Apis has gone under 2 preparation, and there are a lot of changes has been taken place after its proving. So let us remember our Dr. Hering's law of cure says, cure takes place from above downward, from within outward, from center to periphery, and from more important organ to less important organ, and from new to old symptoms. So Dr. Hering concluded the curative process must occur in 5 directions, that what we have observed over here. And the same way, how the Epis has worked on this lady, because if you look at the constitutional makeup, she is a complete Calcarea patient. If you read Materia Medica, you will find the exact Calcarea picture, that what the lady had symptoms. And now Epis on the polycystic ovarian condition. So Epis malefica, how it works? I have narrated it over here. The sting of bees, wasp, fire ants, and insect. It contains phospholipase. In short, it is called the PLA2. Hyaluronidase, apamine, melittin, and kinins. So the sting of bees contains all these elements. And how phospholipase is working? Phospholipase A2 is a membrane protein. It hydrolyzes the phospholipid to form fatty acids and lysophospholipid product. This is a sort of a biochemistry, but why I have brought it over here, that we should understand that how our homeopathy is working, how our medicine is working, in which ground it is working. And here I have mentioned about the phospholipid. Phospholipase A2. It's a membrane protein which hydrolyzes the phospholipid to form a fatty acids and lysophospholipid. Phospholipase A2 proteins are responsible for the release of arachidonic acid from cell membrane. If you remember the cell, when we studied in biology in the first year of our science, we have to recollect everything. And the phospholipase A2 proteins are responsible for the release of arachidonic acid from the cell membrane. Subsequent conversion of these fatty acids to leukotriene and prostaglandin is a part of inflammatory response, leading to inflammatory cyst formation. On the basis of Lob's Similia similibus curentia, Apis mellifica is working on this principle, and that has been proved by this research paper. This is a research paper that I try to find out from the library over here, and they have conducted the research on phospholipase and prostaglandin involved in inflammatory response, and that has dissolved the cyst, and the Apis is proved to dissolve the cyst of the ovary, and it helps to cure the patient with the polycystic ovarian condition. And I have given loads and loads of result to many young patients, those who are married and having a PCOS. To them also, this Apis has given a good results. So now let us understand the pathophysiology of the bee sting. If you experience anytime bee sting, you must have felt the sensation. What happens after bee sting? After bee sting, the body quickly overreacts with histamine secretion. It triggers up the release of histamine from the mast cell. And histamine is usually found in higher concentration in skin, lungs, and in gastric mucosa. Histamine is a potent arterial dilator leading to hypotension. In lungs, it causes bronchial constriction leading to spasm, dyspnea, wheezing, and respiratory collapse. And many times we have seen that some sting, there is a species of spider, very poisonous. So when they sting, patient dies immediately because it leads to anaphylaxis. So these are the pathophysiology of the bee sting, that how bee sting is causing a physiological and pathological changes in our body. So this is how Apis is working and how we are treating the cases of polycystic ovary with the help of homeopathy. Okay. Do you have any question along with this, or shall I proceed along with the another thing?
Okay, proceed please.
Okay. So with the rubrics, you can select rubrics in repertory, that abdomen, heaviness, ovulation during, abdomen pain, ovulation during. So these all the rubrics which you will get in my repertory of infertility, in synthesis as well. So rubrics, it all depends how you select. Homeopathic approaches with the rubrics, that tumor, ovary, cyst, right. You will find it in synthesis, chapter female. Tumors, ovary, cyst, left. Synthesis, chapter female. So these are the way you can check the rubrics. So now we are coming to the endometriosis. Endometriosis, the presence of endometrial tissue outside the uterine cavity is called the endometriosis. Endometrial tissue is within the uterus, but when there is a presence of the endometrial tissue outside the uterus, that is called the endometriosis. The common site of endometriosis is spread is confined to the peritoneal or serosal surface of intra-abdominal organs like ovaries, posterior surface of the broad ligament, pouch of Douglas, and uterosacral ligament, because it is covered with the serosal surface. We call it peritoneum. And these are the rare site. Serosal surface of large and small intestine, urethra and bladder, vagina, any surgical scar, and very rarely pleural cavity. Very rarely. But we should not miss if the patient is complaining referred pain in the chest or at the base of the lung or on the sides of the rib cage. So what are the signs and symptoms? First is pelvic pain, midline pelvic pain, patient having a pelvic mass. If you check the abdomen, you will be able to see the pelvic mass. Alteration in menstrual flow. Infertility is one of the key symptoms with the endometriosis. In dyspareunia, that is also one of the key symptoms. With the PCOS, with the endometriosis. So many symptoms are very common with both the disease. And it becomes sometimes difficult to diagnose whether patient having endometriosis or patient having a PCOS. And sometimes both the conditions are running parallel. But that can be evaluated with the help of investigations, not only with the history. History will not reveal. So cause, its spread to distant site is responsible either due to lymphatic or circulatory system. How it is spreading? So this is a sort of a theory. In that theory, it has been said that either it is spreading due to lymphatic or circulatory system, lymphatic drainage. And when there is a circulation of the blood around the area, it spreads. The blood does not have natural way out. So bleeding occurs inside the ovaries, leading to ovarian endometriosis. And that's why we are finding sometimes hemorrhages in the ovary. If you come across any laparoscopic images of the patient having a endometriosis, you will see the hemorrhages in the ovary. And another possible cause of the endometriosis is coelomic metaplasia, transformation of the coelomic epithelium into the endometrial-like glands. Sometimes it is also having an inherited dyscrasia. Thyroid crisis is also playing a vital role. Allergies like hay fever, as we have seen the patients that what we discussed just now, vasomotor rhinitis, asthma, long history of abdominal and digestive tract disorders, V. histolytica, Antimoeba histolytica, and yeast infection leading to leukorrhea. So these are the root. When patient having a complete full diagnosis in your hand with the sonography, that patient having endometriosis, you should also go in depth to find the allergy is a root cause. Hay fever could be maintenance cause, because with every change of season, patient is developing vasomotor rhinitis, asthma, and when there is asthma, at that time we should not miss to check the clubbing. Also, we have to check whether patient having a high number of eosinophilia or not. If patient having a high number of eosinophilia, then patient will not get better, whether you are treating for the asthma or whether you are treating it for a endometriosis or PCOD, because eosinophils are the real obstacles to the cure. And to remove the eosinophilia, high number of eosinophil, ideally in the blood, the range is 0 to 4. And the absolute eosinophil count should be 40 to 400. But if it is more than that, Sometime I come across a patient who get 2,000 cells per cubic millimeter in absolute eosinophil count. These are the real obstacles to the cure. With the asthma as well, with the endometriosis as well, with the polycystic ovary as well. So here our duty is to give a shortcut to our patient. Once you remove the eosinophilia, high number of eosinophil, patient will respond very quickly. And the drug of choice in homeopathy is a natrum sulph in 3x potency. In conventional medicine, allopathic doctors, they are using diethyl carbamazine citrate, that is called the DCC, hetrazan, unicarbazan, 100 milligram per day. So in allopathic medicine, they are using hetrazan, unicarbazan, diethyl carbamazine citrate. That's the pharmacological name. But in homeopathy, we are using the natrum sulph. And natrum sulph has given a par excellence, and majority of the asthmatic patient, they have also responded very well with the natrum sulph as they having a high number of eosinophil. Age, considering the age of the endometriosis patient. So this disease usually starts with the mid-30s. And always patient have some invasive or manipulative procedure of infertility, like DNC. Many gynecologists, they are insisting their patient that, okay, there is no cause, okay, let us clean the womb, let us clean your uterus. So they do the DNC, laparoscopy, HSG, hysterosalpingography, hysteroscopy. So when all this investigative procedure is being done, after that, chances of developing endometriosis is very, very high. Fertility treatment, injection of Prophy, injection of GnRH, human chorionic gonadotrophin. These are the things which is making endometrium bigger and bigger. That is called the endometrial hyperplasia. Now, with the age, because all this procedure is being done in reproductive age. After that, after 55, nothing has been done. So this is very important, the age. This is usually start with the mid-30s. Once the patient get married after 2 to 3 years, if they don't get results, then the series of investigations starts. And with that investigations, patient is getting a good gift from the conventional invasive procedure, and that is endometriosis. And it is our duty to help our patients to remove the bad effect of surgery. And you know very well, to remove the bad of surgery, to remove the bad effect of any invasive procedure, any invasive investigation, any manipulation to the reproductive tract or to the reproductive organ, Staphylococcus aureus is the best medicine. And we'll come slowly to that as well. So here, etiology, it's a psychotic miasm. Retrograde flow, regurgitation of the menstrual flow, which travels through the fallopian tubes, comes out in peritoneal cavity. Say, for example, if we consider the peristalsis, means the way the food is propagating in the intestine. And the antiperistalsis means vomiting. So the same way, patient is developing a antiperistaltic movement in fallopian tube. And that blood goes and spread into the abdominal cavity with the endometriosis patient. And that's why patient is developing a sort of a endometrial tissue in the abdomen. So predisposing factor is emotional, latent fear of sexual exploitation, humiliation, etc. Patient having a low immunity, ovarian hyperstimulation with the fertility drugs, as I discussed, and ultimately, patient is developing endometriosis and it is spreading, and with the intercourse also, because with the thrush, the blood goes back and it creates a negative pressure and blood is spreading, endometrial tissue is spreading in the abdominal cavity. So this is also one of the factors. So at that time, sometimes we have to tell the patient that just be careful with your personal relationship. So condition related to the endometriosis, polycystic ovary syndrome, as we discussed, adenomyosis of the uterus, that is a condition characterized by presence of endometrium in the myometrium, uterine fibroid, PID, that is called the pelvic inflammatory disease, infection of the female reproductive organ, including the uterus, fallopian tube, ovaries, and cervix. Dysmenorrhea, this is very, very important feature of the endometriosis. And PCOS. Endometritis is the inflammation of the inner lining of the uterus, that is endometrium. Dyspareunia, that is painful intercourse. This also we have discussed. Investigations here, USG, laparoscopy, endometrial biopsy, barium enema, intravenous pyelography, intravenous urogram, CT scan, magnetic resonance image will help to diagnose the condition. And when we advise the blood examination, serological test is very important, and serum marker CA-125 and anti-endometrial antibody test is very important. So this is a D theory, 4D theory. Dysmenorrhea, painful menstruation, dysphagia, painful defecation, dyspareunia, painful intercourse, dysuria, painful urination, and dyspepsia means indigestion. Complication, alteration in the tubal motility. Mucociliary lining of the tube is always affected with the endometriosis. Ciliary movement gets affected seriously. Chronic inflammation of the fallopian tube, that is called the salpingitis. It happens with the endometriosis, distortion of anatomical relation of fallopian tubes and ovary, because of the overgrowth of the endometrial tissue, and it makes the lumen very small, and the transportation becomes quite difficult, and many times patient is landing up with the tubal pregnancy, ectopic pregnancy, and impaired follicle transfer through fallopian tubes that is causing a sort of ectopic pregnancy. So here, complications. Abnormally rising level of prostaglandin, pelvic adhesions happens, injury to the cell-mediated gamete, increased presence of autoantibodies and anti-endometrial antibodies, impaired folliculogenesis leading to cyst formation. So it is two sides of the coin. Endometriosis patient is getting PCOD, and PCOD patient is getting endometriosis. So it's a no-win situation. Unruptured follicle syndrome, follicle is not getting ruptured, anovulation happens, luteal phase deficiency happens, enhanced phagocytosis of the sperm. Sperm gets engulfed by the endometrium, hyperprolactinemia, and difficult nidation or implantation. Homeopathic approach. When we are taking homeopathic approach, we always consider miasmatic approach, constitutional, pathological, and psychosomatic evaluation. That's what I have discussed in earlier case, and this time also I discussed that. And here, useful remedies, Tachysageria, Thuja, Thiocinaminum, and Carcinosin. So now, very quickly, I'll describe this case, a case of bipolar disorder, schizoaffective disorder. She had endometriosis, she had a PCOD, and she never had her period since past 6 years. No period since past 6 years. I kept her record with me with all the reports from the hospital, NHS hospital from the England. And while taking her history, she was taking these two medicines, fluphenazine, 50 milligram every 2 weeks, and procyclidine. So this too, medicine was causing a sort of a suppression of emotions, and it is also interfering with the ovulation. So this has caused a sort of a heterogenic infertility to the patient. And if you observe the patient is fair, fat, flabby, having a water retention, and patient having a lot of stress from her married life, so she becomes schizophrenic. So I started with the calcarea carbapenem for a couple of days, and then I found a very typical symptom. She was very vindictive. She wanted to take a revenge because of the in-laws has given a lot of pain, lot of abuse, lot of exploitation, lot of humiliation. So she wanted to take a revenge, and I gave a lacassase, considering this revenge factor, and she got her period. Not only period, she had her regular periods, and on one day, this miracle happened. So this is how we treat homeopathically. Deep-seated pathology can be transferred to the normal physiology. And ultimately, at last, the intrauterine use of our homeopathic remedy, thiocinaminum, how we are using and how it opens the block. This is a small clip, but you might enjoy that. So, and ultimately we check it in HSC, that is called the hysterosalpingogram. So all my experience I have narrated, I have compiled in these two books. One is Materia Medica of sexual disorder, and one is Homeopathy for sexual disorder. This is a repertory of infertility. This is a Materia Medica of only sexual related symptoms of all the remedies, and another small book. And this repertoire of infertility has been incorporated with the Radar Opus, and another small book, that is Sperm Disorder and Homeopathy, that also I put only sperm abnormality symptoms with this. And if you want to buy, you just send us an email. We will post to your address on receipt of the payment. And this all about our Artis Advanced Clinical Homeopathy Center. Here we are teaching and training the students and homeopaths, providing clinical training to them and building up the confidence to the next generation homeopath to practice in a rational way. And here I express my heartiest thanks to IFPH team, Dr. Shazi Kuriyat, and all the dignitaries of the IFPH. And really, I appreciate to share my thoughts with you people and hope you would like that.